Welcome to Aperture and Shutter Speed, the photography radio show where you can learn and share your love for photography. I'm your host, Chelsea Williams. I'm a professional portrait photographer in Conroe. If you have any questions or comments during the show, you can go 936-647-3776. And also comment on our Facebook page with any questions you have. Today we have in the studio with us Vic Cheribini, president of Epic Software. Thank you, Vic, for being with us.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
I know we have a lot of questions I want to get to. I had the opportunity to meet you a few weeks ago when I went to your studio. Before I get to all that, I do have just a few announcements I wanted to tell everybody. The Woodlands Camera Club, coming up February 27th from 9 to 4, is having a Lightroom workshop. And February 28th, learning your photo equipment from 2 to 4. And March 7th, the Camera Club is having a meeting with speaker Marcio Ramirez. I'm sorry if I got that totally wrong. You can go to the woodlandscameraclub.org to find out more about where they're meeting and everything. The Woodlands Photography Club is having a meeting on March 4th and a mini contest and a slideshow, so you can go to woodlandsphoto.org if you want to see more about that. The TPPA is also having another season of Texas 10. So if you remember, Texas 10 is workshops that are held locally in different areas. The ones around here for Houston is March 6th, and it's Curly Marshall's doing Art of Portrait Lighting. And in Cyprus, they're doing Intro to Volume Photography on March 21st by Robin Jansen. So you can go to tppa.org to sign up for those classes. And so the question I always ask every week, and I want everybody to comment and post their pictures on Facebook, is what kind of pictures have you been doing lately? Just anything. Whatever pictures you've been doing, whatever's been inspiring you lately, what has it been? For me, this past weekend, I was doing a senior session that I kind of had to improvise with because I didn't plan for a parade down here in Conroe, so that kind of threw a kink in it. And I also had a party that I shot with a Elvis impersonator, so it kept things very exciting. Before we get into the formal interview, do you want to tell us what you've been shooting, Vic?
Most of my work is commercial in nature, so I've been doing, things like drill bits and drilling rigs and, equipment and things like that. So that's what's been keeping me busy.
What about you, Dick? What have you been up to?
I've been shooting normal stuff. Probably my biggest challenge right now is we're going FM. So basically going over all the old photos and graphics. I have to update everything with the correct call letters and all that kind of stuff. Personally, I've been shooting just going out and about in town. I know that the parade was a lot of fun. A lot of stuff was going on during that. And then also in Houston, one thing I hope to achieve this weekend is a trip down to the bayou and just go shoot some photos and walk around.
Yeah. So you got pictures during the parade?
Mm-hmm. While on a parade float.
While on a float.
Changes the perspective.
Yes, so. It does. Well, I got to tell you, that parade completely threw me for a loop because I had planned to meet with my senior in downtown Conroe at 2 o'clock.
Well, that's right when it ended.
Yeah, so. But still, there were so many people, and when I drove up, everything was blocked off. So we went somewhere else for a little bit and let everything clear out and let the streets clear out, and then we came back to it. But I guess that was horrible lack of planning on my part because I had no idea about the parade.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't let anyone know what's really going on. It's just like this. I think it's always going to be the third weekend of February because it's supposed to lead up to the livestock.
Right, right. No, that was like a light bulb moment when I saw it. I was like, "What is this?" Okay. So Vic, I had the wonderful opportunity of touring your facilities and your studio a couple of weeks back, and I'm just amazed by everything that you can do at Epic Software. Do you want to give everybody a little information about what Epic Software is and how you got started?
Sure, Chelsea, I'd be happy to. This year, the Epic Software Group turned 25, And we provide basically 4 key services. We do commercial photography, we do 3D animation, we do video production, and we do something called immersive training applications. Our studios are located on Sawdust Road just behind the Hobby Lobby. Over the years, most of our work has come from the oil and gas industry. And as with most folks in the industry right now, our traditional business is down. And it'll most likely stay that way until market conditions change. Luckily, we're venturing into some new areas that seem to be really promising, such as 3D photography, photography workshops, and something called gamification.
If anybody wants to follow along with what we're talking about, you can go to epicsoftware.com and kind of see what we're talking about. And there's other links posted on our Facebook page. You can go to Aperture and Shutter Speed on Facebook and kind of follow along with all the cool things that we're going to talk about. So can you first tell us how you decided to start Epic?
Well, let me start back in the mid-'80s. I was doing an MBA at the University of Houston, and I did a business plan on a company called the Epic Software Group. It was just a company I made up and something I was kind of kicking around for a while. And the concept of the company is that it would make software not for word processing or spreadsheets, but it would be for multimedia applications. Computer graphics back then were really pretty primitive by today's standards, but my professor, a woman by the name of Dr. John Goodman, challenged me to take the plan and put it into action. In addition to being a professor, she was also in charge of the SBDC, and that's the Small Business Development Council of Houston. Dr. Goodman and her staff helped me to find office space. They helped me to find a CPA, an attorney, programmers, everything I needed to get going. It's a tremendous service, and I'd really encourage any of your listeners who are thinking of starting a business or maybe in business and looking for some additional assistance to give them a call. They're very helpful. You can check out the SBDC website, and they have offices at Lone Star colleges. And best of all, their services are all free.
I know from speaking with you before and just hearing a little bit about you previously that it seems like a lot of what you figured out in your business plan and stuff was, seeing into the future that technology and computers and digital imaging would advance. So in the first few years before all that, what was it like when you started Epic?
Yeah, the first few years weren't pretty. You can imagine, as everybody's looking on their computer monitors, back then they were great big CRT monitors with a flashing C prompt, that it was kind of difficult to sell the concept of multimedia. So starting a business, it's always a challenge, but I was determined to bootstrap it, and I didn't take any loans or seek any investors. So when you're trying to explain to people that the computer can be used for more than just like an air-cooled calculator, it was really a challenge. But as hardware and software became more powerful and less expensive, we were able to attract the attention of some of the larger companies here in town that were willing to take a chance on some of the new cutting-edge technologies. Then in 1994, people were discovering the internet. And our business really rapidly expanded. Work came in from companies like Pennzoil and 3M and Halliburton, Shell and Compaq. And then in 1999, we were successful enough to be able to buy 4 acres of land on Sawdust Road, and we built our 3D animation studio. As the company continued to grow in 2009, more and more of our clients were asking for video and photography services. And the animation studio that we built just wasn't right for doing that type of work. So we built a second studio next to it, which was specifically designed for video production and photography. And that's where we do that kind of work today.
So you mentioned 4 different services y'all provide, and I know y'all do many different things. Can we start with commercial photography and how you started out in commercial photography and why?
Sure. My undergraduate degree is a BA in studio photography from the State University of New York at Geneseo. This is a small state school just south of Rochester, New York. When I graduated, I got my first job as a photographer in a large studio in Peoria, Illinois. We did traditional studio photography, mostly high school photography, and back then schools had dedicated photography studios. Students had to go to that specific photographer if you wanted to be in the yearbook. So the studio I worked for had contracts with about 125 different schools. So I worked there 5 days a week at the studio and then a half a day on Saturday. Saturday afternoons and Sundays, I shot weddings. And then on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, I got a job as a adjunct instructor at Illinois Central College. So I was teaching 2 nights a week. I was working 5.5 days plus the weddings on the weekends. And after 2 years of this, I really just, and it's hard to believe you can actually get burnt out on photography, but I was burnt to a crisp. I just had enough of photography. I'd pick up a camera and I just as soon put it right back down again. So I knew I needed a break from it, and I just kind of left it alone for a long time. So if you want, just kind of fast forward with me to 1999, and I met a pro who had just purchased his first digital camera. He took a picture and showed me the back, and I immediately saw this image and I really got excited. It was the same kind of feeling I had at the moment that I was 15 years old and I was in a neighbor's darkroom where he was showing me how to develop and make prints. It was just amazing. It was magic. So I bought my first digital camera in 2000, mainly to take pictures of the kids. And at that time, we were building a lot of websites for our clients, and we'd often get images from our oil field clients that were less than high quality. You can't really build a great website if you have crummy photos. So I started taking my camera out to the field, and before you know it, I was back doing professional photography.
Well, I think a lot of people understand that feeling of wow. You know, when you look at a picture, when you experience that for the first time, it just pulls you in, and I don't know. I understand that feeling completely. If you'll stay with us, we want to hear more about your commercial photography, and we're going to go to break. You're listening to Aperture and Shutter Speed.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Hello, I'm Bonita DeRosa, Animal Control Officer for the City of Willis. We invite you to tune in to Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. for the Willis Hour. On the first Thursday of the month, the Willis Hour will be covering upcoming events and news about the city. Join in the conversation with your city officials and other leaders in the community. On the third, we will be doing a recap of the last City Council meeting. The mission of the City of Willis is to provide high-quality services, accountability, and professional commitment to our citizens. We pledge to provide those who live, work, and visit our city an effective government that is open and responsive to the needs and values of the community. Again, we invite you to tune in on Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 for the Willis Hour.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. We are proud to sponsor 10 philanthropic programs that enhance the lives of those in our community. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. Through our Operation School Bell program, we have provided new clothes to over 50,000 students in our county. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm Chelsea Williams here with Vic Cheribini. And we've been talking about Epic Software, his company, and he told us how they got started, and he was talking about how he really got back into photography with commercial photography. And I mean, that's a pretty big transition from, doing yearbook pictures to weddings to commercial photography. What makes commercial photography so special for you?
Well, I really like the challenge that commercial photography presents to me. There are no two shoots that are ever the same. One day you can be photographing roughnecks working on an oil rig. The next day it could be a CEO in a boardroom. And the day after that you could be photographing a piece of equipment in the studio. So it's always changing, and it's always interesting. When you work in the field, sometimes, and I mean literally in the field, it's often in a hazardous environment, and that takes special training and special gear. Over the years, I've developed and got the safety certifications, the specialized personal protective gear, everything I need to shoot a rig in a refinery or a manufacturing plant or any kind of hazardous environment. So you have to know your equipment inside and out, and you have to be able to get the shoot. In a lot of cases, there's no second chance. So you asked me earlier what our clients use these photos for. Typically, they use them for everything from brochures to websites, trade show displays, just about anything that most companies would use a photo for. That's what they use this for.
Well, you definitely found a niche, because I can imagine there's not many people out there who have gone out and gotten the trainings or, the tick card or whatever you need to get out on oil rigs or to get out into refineries. Do you feel like, you stand out in the industry because you've done all those things and you've kind of pulled away any competitors?
Well, if someone asked me to shoot a wedding or shoot a senior, for example, I'd recommend them to Chelsea or some other photographer, because that's not really what my specialty is. I started years and years ago. One of my first jobs was working in construction on the World Trade Center when it was built back in the early 70s. So I really feel comfortable on construction sites and working around heavy equipment. A lot of other people feel intimidated in those environments, and I really just kind of thrive in them. So that's why I feel like I can do my best work there.
Well, I think that speaks a lot to everybody who's listening, that it's okay to say that you only do one thing, and that it's not bad to say, I do this and I don't do this. I think it's great to find your niche and really define who you are and what it is that you do. I know you do other really special types of photography. Can you tell us a little bit about the 3D photography that you do?
Sure. 3D photography, for those who are not familiar with it, is also called photogrammetry. It's one of those things that you really have to see on a computer to appreciate. So in the show notes, the listeners can see some examples that we've posted at epicphotogear.com/3D. Check out the first 3D photo, which is of a work glove. This is a glove that we shot over 120 photographs, and the glove was mounted on a turntable, so we shot it from all angles, all around, up, lower angles, everywhere you can imagine. Next, we took those photographs and we put them into a powerful piece of software that stitches them all together. This software also creates a 3D mesh, and for those that haven't ever seen this, it's kind of like a wireframe, and it makes a wireframe of the glove. Next, the software wraps the photos around the wireframe. So finally, that object, once it's put together, it's uploaded on the internet for viewing in a browser without the need of any additional software or plugins. It may be difficult to understand again in a podcast, but it's well worth checking out. For our product photography, once you see a 3D photo, it's really difficult to be satisfied with a traditional one. You get so much more information from a 3D photo, but it's really labor intensive to shoot. It requires lots of technical editing on the back end, and it can also be really expensive. Yet, like most technologies, I see this technology evolving, and sooner or later it will be less expensive to do.
I've seen the pictures you've posted of the glove, and there's one of a shoe, and it is really interesting that you can rotate it. It's really easy to manipulate online looking at it, and how you can kind of look into the one of the shoe. You
can actually go inside the shoe.
Look into it, and I could see, for advertising purposes, if somebody had a product, that would be wonderful, because you can really get a full idea of what the item is, what something is. For y'all's purposes with 3D animation, how is that typically used?
Well, Epic actually got its start in 3D animation back in the early 90s. Every once in a while, we'll get a chance to do character animation, which is what most people think of when they think of 3D animation. But our bread and butter is 3D animation for the oil and gas industry. If a company has designed, say, a new drill bit for an oil well, they may want to show how the drill bit cuts through a formation, goes through the rock, and finds the oil. Okay, well, really, you can't do this with video or through photos. But with a 3D animation, you can show exactly how the drill bit works in action in an environment that's designed to mimic the real world. The skills that are required to do technical animation are quite a bit different than those for character animation. And good technical animators who know how to visually tell a story, it's a complex process and they're really hard to find.
I totally believe that because I took a few animation classes in college. There is no way. Well, it would take a lot of, maybe not no way, but there would take a lot of training to get me up to speed because it is challenging. It's a lot to know. And I do think a lot of people out there think, I want to get into animation, and they do think the first thing of character animation. But I see a lot more applications for what y'all do than for character animation, honestly. I think, what y'all do is something that appeals to a much broader audience. And, if people were smart, they would jump on it and maybe find a career in that.
Well, it's good until the oil industry, in our case, turns down. But there are lots of other industries that really use 3D, the medical industry, the legal industry, lots and lots of other industries that realize the power of visualizing something in a third dimension. So just because our industry is down at this particular point in time, I would encourage, as you just mentioned, people to look into it.
Right. And like you said, for the medical industry, I can see for medical training purposes, it would be a wonderful tool. So like I said before, I visited your studio a few weeks ago, and it's really wonderful. It's really something. Can you tell everybody a little bit about your studio and how everything's set up?
Sure. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we built our animation studio in 1999, and by 2009, more and more of our clients were looking for video production. And the animation studio just didn't work. There were too many extraneous noises. The sound wasn't right. It just wasn't going to work. So, in 2009, we decided to build a specialty studio just for that. And as we looked around to come up with ideas for the building, we first went to the bank to see if there was any possibility of getting a loan, and we wanted to do something that was a little offbeat. We wanted to build a building completely out of cargo containers. So you can imagine that in 2009, when the banks weren't lending money for anything, that the idea of getting any money from them to build a commercial building out of cargo containers was not going to go over very well. So this was something we were going to have to do ourselves. So what we did is we went to the University of Houston College of Architecture, and we found some fourth-year architect students that actually helped us come up with some concepts for the building. In addition, we used our own 3D animators to build several different models, actually 69 different models of that studio, until we finally decided on the one that was going to be perfect for us. We built it using the 11 cargo containers, and we built it big enough to include other companies in it. We have, for example, Silver Rock Productions in it. They're a full video production company as well, and they use the studio. The way we were able to get the building built and not go bankrupt in the process was using as many upcycled and recycled materials as possible. For example, there's everything from garage sales to Craigslist to recycling centers. Habitat for Humanity has a great facility here in Conroe where you can go and buy things at a fraction of their cost, and they're really, really good quality. For example, appliances and things that would cost you hundreds of dollars in a commercial, in a regular retail store, and there you can buy for pennies on the dollars, and they're all really in great shape. So that's how we were able to do it, and we built it in a way that we also are able to lease it out to other companies. We lease it out to video production companies and other photographers. For example, every once in a while we'll get a celebrity in there. And just a little while ago, we had a studio from San Francisco that handles the Reebok account rent the studio for a shoot with J.J. Watt, and we put some links on the show notes where that shoot is and what looked like during the shoot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's wonderful that y'all managed to have this studio and that you have a really good co-relationship with the video production company, Silver Rock, right?
Yeah. We've been working with Silver Rock for probably close to 15 years. When it comes to doing things, we do video, but we don't do it like Silver Rock. Silver Rock is a company that if we need to call on somebody that requires a shoot with a crane or a jib or a helicopter or anything that's really specialized, any kind of switching equipment, things that are high end, we go to Silver Rock. If it's a simple lockdown type of video shoot, we can do that ourselves. In turn, when Silver Rock needs things like storyboards, or if they need any kind of 3D animation or special effects, they come to us. And we've worked with these folks over the years, and it's just been a great relationship.
So, for you mentioned that people can rent out your facilities if they want to do their own photos, their own video production. What kind of photographer would best be suited to use a nice commercial studio the way you'll have?
Well, I'll give you a good example. There's a photographer here in the Woodlands by the name of Ted Washington. If you haven't seen Ted's work, well, you have seen Ted's work if you've been here for any period of time, but Ted does incredible work, and he was the official photographer for the Woodlands Development Corporation for many, many years. Well, he had a photo shoot a while back for a company that sells Oriental rugs. These are rugs that are beautiful, and if you try to photograph the rug from the wall, it really doesn't do justice to the rug. It doesn't lay properly because it's hanging from the wall, and you've got gravity affecting it. So what we did with Ted took the rugs and he laid them on the floor of the studio, and we have a grid that you're able to raise and lower in the studio. He rigged his camera up to the grid where he could raise the camera. He can control it with a remote control device. So he was able to take the pictures of the rugs as they laid flat, and the photos are just absolutely stunning. So there's an example of a specialty use of the studio. We also lease it out to any kind of photographers that may have a large photo shoot. A lot of photographers have they've done away with their studios and they've gone on location to do their shooting. Well, every once in a while you really need a studio, and when you do, Epic is the kind of company we hope you come and use our studio for those purposes.
That's wonderful. And I can totally see that because, personally, I used to work in a studio, and just for flexibility purposes, I'm an on-location only person now. So I think that's wonderful that y'all offer that option of really high-quality studio that you can rent out if you need it. And I think that would work for a lot of people. If you'll stay with us a few more minutes, we're going to go on break, and we'll be right back with Aperture and Shutter Speed.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization featuring a 10,000 square foot building located at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas. At Heaven's Army, we offer over 26 different services free for all ages, from karate, dance, drug and alcohol classes, anger management, parenting, food and clothing pantries, to just name a few. We are supported solely by volunteers and private donations. Our main mission is to glorify God in all that we do. At Heaven's Army, we strive to be a hand up, not a handout. Come check us out at 19325 FM 1485 West, New Caney, Texas, or call for more information at 281-689-5864. You may also learn more about Heaven's Army by visiting our website at heavensarmyofresources.com.
Hey, this is Cindy Cochran, and now Conroe can boast of another first. the first morning live talk show, 10 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on Lone Star Internet Radio, coming straight out of the fabulous downtown Conroe, Texas. Be the coolest guy at the water cooler, or the most informed break room dweller by listening to the fun side of the news, local, national, infinity, and beyond. The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Are you interested in learning more about preparing quick, healthy, and safe meals for your family? Would you like to spend time with others learning tips and tricks, along with practicing and tasting nutritious food? If so, the On the Road to Healthy Living Mobile Cooking School is for you. Call Amy Ressler at Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service at 936-539-7825 to find a class near you or volunteer to host a class.
I know they never match my sweet imagination.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I am Chelsea Williams, here with Vic, the president of Epic Software, and he's been telling us all about Epic Software. If you have any questions or comments, you can call 936-647-3776 or comment on our Facebook page. And if you missed any of the show, it will be available in the archives on irlonestar.com. So Vic, you've been telling us all about Epic Software, commercial photography, 3D animation. You also mentioned getting into the gamification.
It's called gamification. It's really immersive training applications, and let me explain a little about that because I think you'll be seeing more and more of it. Gamification is using video game technology to create immersive environments for serious applications. Most of your listeners are familiar with video games where you play a character and you run through an environment and you shoot zombies or aliens. Well, if you take that same technology and you use it to create a workplace environment, for example, a refinery or a drill rig or any kind of manufacturing plant, you can use it for training and orientation purposes. Let me give you a good example. We just are finishing right now a large project for ExxonMobil where your job is, as a new hire, to go through and navigate your way around one of their brand new oil tankers. Okay? Your job is to demonstrate that you know your way around the ship, and you can also do some different training scenarios. Well, it sounds easy, but the tanker itself is 2 football fields in length, and it's filled with all kind of complicated equipment. So once you complete your ship's orientations, you walk around, you learn all the different parts of the ship. You're faced with several scenarios. The ship is all of a sudden in a sea quake, and it's racked by these rogue waves, and that creates all sorts of chaos on board. And your job is to do these scenarios in the way that you would in terms of the way the company wants you to handle them. For example, there's a grease fire in the galley. What happened is the grease tank, the oil tank where you do the deep frying, spills and it starts a fire. Well, what is the procedure to put out a fire? You've got to know that procedure, demonstrate that you can take the fire extinguisher off the wall, you know how to use the fire extinguisher, you know how to pull the alarm, you know how to put the deep fat fryer cover back on, the lid back on so it stops any fire from spreading. You've got to go through that step-by-step procedure. There's a leak in the engine room, and a leak in the engine room on a ship could be a catastrophe because literally it could make the engine stop, and if that happens, the party is pretty much over. So you have to demonstrate that you know how to fix that leak. This is a simulated environment, but nonetheless, after you finish going through one of these scenarios, I mean, your heart's beating faster, and there may be a little sweat on your brow. Last year, we created a frac site. This is a fracking site for the Houston Advanced Research Center. It's also known as HARC, using the Oculus Rift. The Rift is a set of 3D virtual reality goggles that further immerses you into the environment. So, for example, with the Rift, as you move closer to a piece of equipment, the sound of the equipment gets louder. As you move away, it fades out. And just to show you how this is growing in popularity, Facebook last year purchased the Oculus Rift company for $2 billion. So we're kind of confident that VR, virtual reality technology, will soon become a part of all of our lives.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, in movies in the past that have predicted, like, in the future, they always show virtual reality things. And I got the opportunity to walk through kind of your programming area and meet one of your programmers who was working on it. And you showed me your Exxon project, and it is very detailed. And, to think that you could have this kind of almost video game setup for training purposes where somebody can go through and, you're right, prove their knowledge. And even though it's a program, you have to know what to do to get through it. And I think that could be applied to so many industries, and I think it probably will in the future, because it seems like it would be much more cost effective if somebody can let somebody experience it than pull them out on a ship and each one of their new trainees or whatever to do step by step of all these different scenarios.
Yeah, that is really expensive, and most companies these days have kind of two different levels of training. They either have kind of like PowerPoint presentations that the student goes online and just kind of watches, and it's almost death by PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the kind of training you're talking about, which is either instructor-led training or training in the field, which is extremely expensive, and it's actually difficult to do, and it could be dangerous. So somewhere in the middle is this immersive training, this gamification type of training, and we think that the environment, the business environment, is just ripe now for experimenting with these types of new technologies.
Well, I think Epic Software has always been ahead of the game. Like, you were ahead of the game on the computer aspect, you were kind of ahead of the game on things like that, and I think this is just another version of that, of y'all are getting to it before everything booms and it's everywhere. And I think that's wonderful. The young man that I met when I was there, who was your programmer, I don't know if he was one of your interns or not, but I know that y'all have an excellent internship program. Who is best qualified to be an intern at Epic Software, and how would they apply for a position like that?
Okay, that's a really good question. So, from the very beginning, we've worked with interns, and they're really a part of they're the DNA of our company. Before I was able to hire, regular employees, I worked with interns. We have a year-round internship program, and typically we work with the local high schools and the community colleges to find candidates for our program. I sit on several advisory boards for schools in the area, and I'm able to meet with the instructors and find out from them who are their best students and encourage them to come and do internships at Epic. During the summer, we hire anywhere from 4 to 8 interns, and this summer it's going to be really a special year, because unlike the past, which for the most part we've been doing interactive work for the oil and gas industry, this time we're going to be building our own game. This is for entertainment purposes, so it's a real departure from the type of work we've done over the last 25 years. It should be a great learning opportunity for anybody that wants to learn how to build a video game literally from concept to creation. So if you know anybody that's interested in doing an internship at Epic, please encourage them to visit our website at epicsoftware.com, and you'll find an About Us tab, and in that tab, the drop-down internships. Click on it. We generally require 3 things from our interns. We want to have their cover letter. We want to see that they could write and communicate. We want to see their transcript. We want to see what kind of grades they had, for example, in school, and what courses they've taken. And number 3 is we'd like to see their portfolio and their resume, so that way we get a full understanding of what their skill set is, and again, how they present themselves on paper. So please, if you know anybody that could be interested in taking one of the internships position, please have them contact us.
I think that's an incredible learning process, because sometimes there's no other way to learn it than just to get in it and have somebody kind of walk you through how to do it, and have somebody mentor you on how to do it. And I think an internship is a great way to do that. And I think you're doing smart by pulling out the best minds of the local community and building them up.
It's worked out as a win-win for everybody involved.
Absolutely. So, what do you think is it the future for Epic software?
That's a good question, and that's what kind of keeps me up at night. So over the past 25 years, we've been through 2 other down cycles in the oil and gas industry, and like those, we know this too will pass, but low oil prices are going to probably be with us for a while. So while we have the time, we're going to work on video games, the video game that I was talking about earlier, to kind of build our own entertainment piece. And it's also too early to announce the details about that game, but I'd like to encourage your listeners to check back on our website in about another month or so, and that's when we're going to be announcing what we're going to be doing, and that's where we really need some additional help from interns and probably others, programmers, animators, artists in the community that we can work with. I'm also planning to launch something that I'm kind of excited about, and this is specifically for some of your listeners who are professional photographers and also for photo enthusiasts. We own a fairly large piece of property in New Braunfels on the Guadalupe River, and it's called Edgewater Retreat. This complex will sleep 24 people, and we purchased it several years ago, primarily for summer vacation rentals. We're usually booked solid throughout the summer with everything from family reunions to church groups to company retreats. Those are the type of folks that we typically attract. The trouble is, in the spring and fall, most of the weekends at Edgewater Retreat are open. We don't have them booked, and this is really a shame. From a photographer's standpoint, I think the spring and fall are actually the best times of the year to shoot in the hill country. The colors are changing, the weather's reasonable, and the crowds are really minimal. So this fall, what I'm planning to do is to offer photography workshops at Edgewater Retreat. This might be 1 or 2 workshops that I actually do, but what I want to do is I want to encourage and open it up to other photographers to use the facility to offer their own types of workshops. We can handle the back-end work. The beauty of this is that, again, most photographers probably deep down inside would love to teach a workshop, but there's an awful lot of logistics that are involved in putting one together. Well, we can handle all the back-end work when it comes to that. We can take care of the reservations, the food, the lodging, any of the local trips that you may want to do, so the photographer can concentrate on teaching his or her craft to their students. And the beauty of Edgewater Retreat is that it's small enough where we could probably do a really good workshop with 10 to 12 people, and the people could actually stay at the facility and learn throughout the time they're there. We want the camaraderie and the trading of information between you and the other photographers to go on beyond the typical 8-hour day.
Right. And I know the hill country is a very popular place for photographers, and having something private to use like that is wonderful. I've seen pictures of your place, and it's right on the river, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm kind of looking forward to maybe going out there and teaching some portrait classes if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I think when we get ready to announce this, we'll have it all set up. I've contacted a couple of the other meetup groups here in Houston just to see if there was any interest in this or if this was just a pipe dream. And of the 3 people I contacted, I got 3 people saying, yeah, I'd like to kind of check this place out, and I've been thinking of doing a workshop for a while, and this might be a good place to do it. So I think we may have something here, but again, time will tell, and we would encourage you to check back later in the year. We have the link to Edgewater Retreat. It's edgewater-retreat.com in the show notes. Please check it out and send me your comments.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing how that goes. If you'll stick with us, we're going to take one more break on Aperture and Shutter Speed.
Doing business since 1985, Assistance League of Montgomery County is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization where all proceeds stay in Montgomery County. We are proud to sponsor 10 philanthropic programs that enhance the lives of those in our community. Visit our thrift shop at 126 North San Jacinto Street in downtown Conroe, or call us at 936-760-1151. Don't forget to like us on Facebook.
Tune in to Chamber Chat with your host, Courtney Galley and Samantha Good, with the Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber of Commerce, every first Tuesday of the month at 11 a.m. I'm one of your hosts, Courtney Galley. Samantha and I will chat about the Conroe Chamber's upcoming events and programs for the month. Relax with a cup of joe or your favorite drink for Chamber Chat.
I'm Lieutenant Bob Berry with the Conroe Police Department, reminding you that texting and talking on the phone while driving are not only dangerous, but also illegal in school zones and other posted areas. Drive safely and alert.
Hello, Montgomery County. I'm Rachel Baldwin with Special Olympics Texas, Area 6. Are you a fan of courage? Are you a fan of determination? Are you a fan of acceptance, grace, and skill? Then you're already a fan of Special Olympics. Make it official. Volunteer, coach, and/or compete and be a fan of dignity and acceptance. The dedication of our Special Olympics Texas volunteers provides mainstreaming experiences for athletes with intellectual disabilities. You will touch the heart of another person, and it will move you in a meaningful way that lifts the spirit. Please visit the Heart of East Texas Area 6 webpage at www.sotx.org. Also, like us on Facebook to be a fan and be part of Special Olympics Texas.
Welcome back to Aperture and Shutter Speed. I'm Chelsea Williams here with Vic Cheribini. He is the president of Epic Software, and he's told us all about his company and commercial photography and their animation aspect. And if you missed any of that, you can go to our Facebook page and look at the links and find out more about Epic Software. Also, if you're a photographer that wanted to rent out some space, that was an excellent resource. So I've got a few extra questions for you. What do you think attributed to the success of Epic Software?
Well, I think a great deal of our success can be directly traced to the people who work at Epic. The artists, animators, programmers, photographers, they're all really talented people. I was lucky in my first job to have a boss that taught me that the importance of hiring the right people and giving them the freedom to do great work. I also have to thank my wife. It sounds, I don't want to get corny on this, but really without the freedom that she's given me to launch a company and launch a company at a time when nobody else kind of even understood what we were trying to do, to have that faith was really great. So I have to thank her as well. We've been blessed over the years with some really great clients. The people that we've sold our services to have come back time and again to give us more work. So all of that's, if we've achieved any degree of success, I have to thank our customers as well.
And I think that's an important part of any business is maintaining customer loyalty. And I know that's big for me. I like shooting the same families year after year. So you talked about Epic Software and how you do commercial work. You talked about in your early years you were doing portrait work and weddings. What do you do just for fun?
Okay, that's a good question, and it's interesting that one of your sponsors is the PH, or Pulmonary Hypertension Association, and that's an association that I go back with probably close to 15 years now. 15 years ago, one of my neighbors came to me and said that his daughter was afflicted with pulmonary hypertension, and I didn't know anything about the disease. I never heard of it. It's a very rare disease, typically affects young girls. Teenage girls, all of a sudden they're 12, 13, 14 years old and they have trouble breathing, they're gaining weight, and there's no reason for this. And they go in to get examined, and oftentimes, because it's such a rare disease, the doctor treats it the wrong way. And instead of treating it like pulmonary hypertension, they treat it like asthma, and that's exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do. And the next thing you know, the child is mortally wounded. It's a terrible disease. There is no cure for it. So getting the word out and helping explain to people what pulmonary hypertension is and raising money to find a cure for it is something that I'm very passionate about. So the local PH Association has asked me over the years to work with them, typically to help them organize events, and I'm usually the guy who does the photography. So this is not something that I normally would do, but in a case like this where they're not going to pay any photographer to do this, this is all donated volunteer type work. I don't feel like I'm taking any work away from another photographer, and I can give of myself something that again I feel very passionate about. So over the years, when I get an opportunity, I'm at any of the PH events with my camera taking pictures and getting them to the PH Association so they can use to promote awareness of the disease.
Well, I think that's wonderful to spend kind of extra time promoting events like that and raising money for things that you really care about. I know most photographers can relate to that, and the fact that we usually have a charity that kind of touches our heart and we kind of focus on. And in one of my networking groups, there's a woman whose daughter has Rett syndrome, and that's kind of the focus of our group. And some of the WISE conference stuff as we've done is we kind of raise awareness for Rett syndrome, which affects girls. And so I think, that's a wonderful thing to do, and your free time is to promote something that needs attention, and you can kind of fundraise and help them. You said you've been doing it for 15 years, correct?
That's right, yeah.
And so it shows a huge dedication. And also, I think, if people see that loyalty of 15 years, it speaks very highly of you and what you do. And they can look at all the pictures that they have and see that. Well, I definitely want to thank you for taking time out today to be with us on the show and tell us all about your company. Do you want to give everybody one last time the websites that they need to check out?
Sure. You can look at the show notes to get all of the exact web addresses, but our main company website is epicsoftware.com. You can look at the 3D images at epicphotogear.com/3D. You can look at Edgewater Retreat at edgewater-retreat.com. And there's a couple of links to the photo shoot from J.J. Watt on the in the show notes, and I don't remember those offhand, but you can get those easily by just looking at Aperture and Shutter
Right.
Speed. How do you find?
It's irlonestar.com, and for our show, it's /ASS, and everything will be on there. I know. Talk to Dick about it. It was his thing. So for anybody that's listening, you can go to Aperture and Shutter Speed Facebook page and check everything out. There are links there, and you can go to irlonestar.com. We are, Aperture and Shutter Speed is every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 12 o'clock. Our next show will be March 8th at 12 p.m. We're going to have Doug Sweet from Humble Camera. And so I think it'll be really interesting to talk to somebody from a local camera shop. Honestly, I didn't know that there was anything closer than Houston. So I think a lot of people would be interested to hear about that and what they offer and what kind of equipment they can hook everybody up with. So be sure to mark your calendars for March 8th at 12 o'clock. And thank you again for Vic being on. And until then, everybody keep on shooting.
I can read